Good morning, everyone. Merlou here from Casa Mariposa, and I wanted to show you a little video of one of my garden projects today. I'm going to be preparing and planting our winter garden in our raised beds. We plant our vegetables in the winter because it's too hot here in the summer and things don't do so well. For those of you who've been here, you'll remember that our raised beds are a couple of horse troughs, and we chose these for a very specific reason. One of the big problems in growing vegetables here is the iguanas. They love to eat everything we plant, and their favorite things are fruits and vegetables and flowers. So we have to have a way to keep them out of our raised beds. Because of the sides being slippery on these metal tanks, the iguanas cannot climb up the sides. And so we found these to be very effective in keeping them out. One thing I'm going to have to do today to prepare and keep the iguanas out is I'm going to have to cut back some of these plants that are growing close to the sides, because iguanas are quite clever and they will climb up onto other plants and let themselves down into the tank. And so I just have to cut away the plant material that's growing up close to them. Also, as you can see, the soil in the beds has gone down quite a bit. It's probably 4 or 5 inches lower than it was when we started last year. This happens every year, and so we'll be digging up the soil that's in there, loosening it, adding more soil. We got a special raised bed potting mix, and we'll mix in some charcoal from our fire pit. We'll also mix in some vermiculite and perlite to make the soil perfect consistency for our plants. And we went shopping yesterday and we bought a few plants to start with. So right here we have a tomato, a couple of peppers, we have basil, thyme, and cilantro. We also have a few things we plant from seed, which would be cucumbers and beans. And I ordered some special pepper seeds that we couldn't find a plant of anywhere here. They're called jalapeno or nada-pino, which is a jalapeno that doesn't have much heat. And I particularly like them because they're great for things like jalapeno poppers, which I prefer to not be overly hot. And so anyway, I'm going to be starting those from seed. Also, I'm going to start from seed some of the little multicolored heirloom tomatoes like you get at the grocery store. I'll be just taking the seeds out of those and planting them. I haven't tried that myself, but I have some friends who do this every year and say they have great luck in growing those tomatoes. So anyway, I'm going to get some of my materials together and I'll be back soon. Okay, back again for another follow-up. So I've cut back the plants that were really up close to our raised beds. And the next thing I'm going to do is, as you'll see in this one, we have a really nice rosemary that's still left from last year, so I'm going to temporarily put it in a pot while I amend the soil. Also, as I was working, I found 2 little basil plants that have come up from some seeds that dropped off last winter. So I'm going to also save those in little pots and replant them. And so I am now ready to get my soil mixed up. So what I'm going to Okay, everyone, I'm back again. I'm filling the tanks with the soil and the amendments. This year we got this all-natural raised bed potting soil mix. And you can see I cleaned out the tanks, dug them, loosened up the soil that was already there. I added perlite, vermiculite, and some charcoal from the fire pit. I don't mean charcoal like matchlight. You can't just dump a bag of matchlight in. This is like pieces of wood that we burned in our fire pit that don't have any chemicals on them. This one, I've already added 1 bag of soil. I'm going to use my little shovel. This short-handled shovel is perfect for this, to mix in the soil. Once I get it mixed in really well, then I'll be ready to start adding my plants. Okay, and here I am back again. I have completed adding and amending the soil in both of my raised beds. So you'll see that they're much fuller than they were. And I decided to give you a little background on when we started these tanks, what we have in the bottom, because it's not just all full of dirt. So when we first got them, we drilled extra holes in the bottom for drainage, and we decided to set them on top of these concrete blocks so that they were raised up a bit, also for drainage. And then about the bottom third to half of the tank is full of rocks, and then there's a layer of landscape cloth to prevent the dirt from just running out the bottom. And then the top third or so is filled with the soil, which we amend and add to every year. So the next step that I'll be following is, you'll see I have some racks over here. I put a rack in each tank held up by short steel posts, and that allows me to grow things vertically as well as horizontally. And so I'm going to get those put in, and then I'll give you a peek at what that looks like. Okay, I have my tanks set up. I put my little trellises up in the back, held in place by steel posts. I placed a couple of my plants that I took out, but from midday to late afternoon, it gets a lot of direct sun, which is good for many vegetables. I do have to be careful how I plant things, because with these trellises, as the plants grow up them and vine up, whether it's tomatoes or cucumbers, it does provide some shade on what's behind it. So that is just something to think about when I'm deciding on my plant placement. And I'm going to get to work on that, and then I'll show you what I come up with. Okay, I've got my little plants put in, and it looks like there's a lot of big open spots, but I've also planted some seeds, so that's why it looks like there isn't much planted. But I have some tomato seeds and cucumber seeds and green bean seeds, some of which will be growing up the trellis. Now my next step is to lay my soaker hose in the tank, which I have right now down here on the ground. And I lay that around the tank. It runs up the side. And as you can see on this one, I'm going to have to redo this, but it's covered with a piece of flashing and tape. And this is another deterrent for the pests, iguanas, and things like that helps keep them out. Otherwise, they could crawl up the hose and get into the tank that way. So I'm going to be working on that, and when I get that done, I'll come back and show you how it looks. Okay, I'm back again, and the raised beds are basically done. We probably will add a few more plants as we go, but everything is set up and ready. You can see that I've coiled the small soaker hose around inside the tank, and I have it coming down to the side, covered up with a piece of flashing. And then both of the hoses are hooked together with a Y, and then they come back to the side of the house where we have a timer. And so the timer comes on twice a day for about 10 or 15 minutes each time. And it's just really perfect because we don't have to worry about remembering to come out and water them all the time. Anyway, I will try to remember to do another short video in a month or so you can see the progress of the plants. Here in the Florida Keys, things grow pretty quickly. So we'll probably be getting harvesting, I wouldn't be surprised if we are in a couple months, from even the tomatoes, the beans. We got to get some cucumber seeds. Those grow very quickly. So we'll be back again with a progress report. That's all for now. Bye from Casa Mariposa.